Good morning, good night, good everything in between. Welcome back to our podcast about books and stuff. The intro is different every single time. I'm your host, Cornelia, and I'm with my wonderful co host, Charlotte.
Hello.
And we are Literary Ramblings. And usually we have a book of the month and we talk about whatever book we both read together. But this time we are going to do a little mini podcast, partly because we're testing out different podcasting equipment because we have a host of audio issues all the time, which is super fun to deal with.
Mhm.
Um, but also because I think it might just be nice to have a couple of shorter podcasts towards the end of the year. So we are recording this in September, but you might not get to hear this until November or December, depending on our reading schedules and when I actually upload things. That's my job, and I'm bad at it. So for this podcast, I have searched up great questions for book clubs. We're gonna aim for 15 20 minutes for this. Okay, the question is, what was the first book you remember reading?
Okay, so the first book that I remember reading, like by myself, you're
hmm
saying, not like with my mom.
Stop putting so many qualifiers on it. The first book you
Okay,
remember reading. That's the question.
the
This
first
is
book I
an
remember.
icebreaker. It's not supposed to be complicated.
Well, I read a lot of books. I feel like Writing Freedom had to be one of the earliest books that I read that I remember because it's like an early
Yeah.
chapter book and it features a girl named Charlotte who rides horses and I loved it. So,
hmm All right. I have absolutely no freaking idea. Probably Little House on the Prairie because my mom made me read that when I was learning to read, and that's the first one that I remember learning to read from.
hmm.
We ever actually read a whole book,
Oh,
but yeah,
just parts.
that's probably the first one.
You just read parts of books?
Yeah, well, I was at a point where I could read paragraphs instead of lines.
Mm.
So that's what she did. She had to have a book for paragraphs. And it was not long after that that I just started reading on my own.
Mhm.
But I picked up reading pretty quickly, much to the chagrin of my older brother who struggled, but you know, he's a lot better at many other things than I am, so no shade.
Yeah, I mean, technically, my mom said that my middle sister learned faster than me because she was so competitive and saw me reading, able to do it herself.
Yeah.
So,
See, and I wasn't even like competitive. I just picked it up a lot faster. It's just the skill that I learned. So it's whatever. People learn at different paces. And my brother can read fine now. He's an
yeah,
adult,
yeah,
and he's perfectly capable long before this. But I always feel bad saying it because it sounds like I'm bragging, and I don't mean to brag. That like I learned faster than my older brother. We're not that far apart. We're only like a year apart. So
yeah,
it's not as though it's like bragging rights. It's just a skill that I picked up really quick.
yeah. And, it's hard to remember like the first book you read because, yeah, it's such a like communal experience when you're a kid that
Mhm.
I can remember like different series that my mom read to us. And I'm like, I think we were reading along with her, but I don't know that I would like, I'm sure most of it was just listening,
Yeah.
really. So.
Yeah. But I mean that counts as reading. It's like an audiobook, just live.
Live audiobooks. That's what
It
parents are.
is. They are. They're
Hmm.
audiobook actors. They're voice actors and everything.
Yeah, they're
All
pretty good
right.
too.
The next question is what book or books are on your bedside table currently? I don't have a bedside table, so or at least not one that I keep books on because my cat takes up the whole table.
Mm.
So, but the books that I currently have in like my stack that I'm currently reading, quote unquote, is Our Book Club Pick, which is with a single spell, a indie author book that is called Seven Lives Saved, and then I also have Gallant, which is by V.E. Schwab.
Interesting. Yeah, I also don't keep books on my nightstand because I mostly read in my living room.
hmm
And so the books actually weirdly end up on my kitchen table because I also read on my lunch breaks. So
Yeah.
I also have our book club pick, and then I have The Captain's Wife, which I may or may not be giving up on because I really have not been enjoying it. Um,
Yeah.
and then I have The Yiddish Policeman's Union by Michael Chabon, who we read a book by a
Oh.
couple months ago. So I
Yeah.
wanted to read more of him, and this is kind of like an alternate future type book. So yeah, I haven't started it yet, but it's out.
Yeah, I've barely started like Gallant, and with a single spell, I'm a couple pages into both of them. But I basically like I'm a couple pages in because I was like I need to start these. So I
Hmm.
just literally read a couple pages just to start quote unquote the book.
Yeah.
Um Seven Lives Saved is not bad, but I am having a hard time getting through it. I started it like in July,
Hmm.
and I started with a digital copy because I got an ARC, which is an advanced reader's copy from the author because I follow her on TikTok. And I just wasn't getting into it. And part of it is because I don't do digital books really well. Like I just don't. I really have to very, very purposely read them in
Yeah.
order to get through them. So I went and I bought just a physical copy, and it's kind of helped and it's kind of hasn't. I I don't know. It's not a bad book. I don't think it's bad at all. I'm just having a hard time getting through it. I don't know why. It's one of those.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely books like that where you like don't dislike it, but they're just hard to read for some reason.
Mhm.
And it definitely is. I mean, I try to keep out the books that I'm currently reading just so I see them and remember, like, oh yeah, I want to read that. But
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a whole shelf of TBR, and I'm really disappointed with myself because this year I've started double stacking. So I have the books pushed back against the back of the shelf, and now I have another row that's starting in front of it, and I'm not happy about it. I was really proud of myself for keeping my TBR at a reasonable amount. Not that I ever like get through the whole thing 100%, but
hmm,
keeping it to, 10 to 20 books
yeah,
so that I always have something there, but it's not so many that it's overwhelming, and at this point it's starting to get overwhelming. And because I'm in multiple book clubs, and I don't know, I just keep going to book places and buying books.
hmm,
So
yep,
it just keeps growing, and it's really irritating me because I like going to book places and I like buying books, and it's really
yeah,
enjoyable, and I love being in book clubs, but then at some point it just becomes really overwhelming. And I'm not getting through books as quickly as I sometimes do. So maybe that's also not helping me.
yeah. I mean, I basically keep checking out graphic novels from the library and reading those instead of books I already own. So
Yeah.
that's a bad habit, but also I love doing it. So
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
see.
All right. What's one book or author you can't stand?
I mean, the one that immediately jumped into my head is from high school, and it's Ethan Frome.
Oh, yeah, no, that book sucked. I hated it.
Yeah, that book
That
was. I
and The
wish I
Scarlet
could have
Letter.
stopped reading it.
Yeah, that one and The Scarlet Letter for me.
I liked the Scarlet Letter.
I hated it so much. That's the only book in high school that's the only book for school that I never actually read.
You just gave up.
I gave up. I think I was about a third of the way into it, and I was like, I can't read this. So I looked up the Spark Notes, and I didn't understand anything. I got the worst grade ever. Like
Mm.
as somebody who was very English and creative writing oriented basically my entire life, that was the worst grade I ever got on a paper. And our teacher looked directly at me when she mentioned, "You guys can write the paper again to get more points on it if you got a bad grade." And I was
Oh
like,
no.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. My grade in the class was not in danger at all. I was
Yeah.
fine with that. I think it was a C plus,
Mm.
which was probably more generous than she had any right to be.
Yeah, because she could probably tell, like, okay, you didn't read this whole book.
Yeah. And I didn't care. I was just like, nope, I'm just gonna take the C plus and move on with my life. I'm not dealing with this book for another moment. Also, in college, I really, really hated The Awakening.
Mm.
Hated that book.
Did we read the whole thing?
Yes. Oh no, that was also in high school.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say,
I
I
think we
feel like
read
I
part of
might
it
have
in
let us.
college.
Yeah, we read part of it in college because I was like, I don't think I ever read the whole thing,
Well, I did in high school.
and you did not like it.
I
Okay.
hated it. Well, the The teacher was like, I use this book first because it has a lot of symbolism and it's easy to understand the symbolism in it. And then like freaking I don't know anything about that book. There's like the repetition of like water and then a bird cage and she's like, "See, water is just such a repeated symbol and I use this book because it makes it easier to understand symbolism." And I don't know what water means in that book. I have no idea. To this day, I don't know. I never figured it out. But it's so throughout that book. A bird cage is pretty easy. It's like, "Oh, you feel caged, then when there's a bird cage that's open, you feel set free." Fine.
Yep.
A cage is simple. Water can mean so many things.
Hmm.
I still don't know. Still hated that book though.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I don't even remember who the author of Ethan Frome is because I was thinking about the author part of that question, and
Mm.
I'm like, I don't really have any authors that I like hate. I mean,
Yeah, the one that came to my mind, which I don't hate her, but like Cornelia Funk for me,
yeah,
it's just an author that I will not go out of my way to read any more of her books. Which is
yeah,
funny because I did really like Thief Lord, but I've tried. We read Inkheart
hmm,
together, and I just it was not for me. And then I tried reading one of her YA books, Reckless, and that was not for me either.
I could have told you that one wasn't good because I remember that from high school being disappointed.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't get through it. I read a little bit into it, and I was like, no. But she's an author that's like, it's not that I can't stand her. It's that you know, it, she just doesn't write what I'm gonna read.
Yeah, yeah, and the other thing is, I only really started paying attention to authors more as an adult. So when I didn't like a book and I used to read way more as like a high schooler, I it's not like I remembered, oh, I didn't like that author. I just be like, oh, that wasn't a good book. Moved on.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely didn't keep track of authors very often. I don't think I really did until I started working in a bookstore,
Mm-hmm.
and it was because I needed to. And
Yep.
now I kind of still do like mentally keep track of some authors, depending.
Yeah.
In childhood, it was if I happened to read a book by the same author and then realize that they were the same, and I
Yes.
liked both of them, I'd be like, oh, okay, I like this author. But
Hmm.
very rarely.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It was always the ones I liked that I would remember. The ones I didn't like, I don't keep them in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What book needs a sequel?
That's a
I
tough
have
one
one.
because oh, okay, you do have one. Okay,
I
well,
do
you
have
go
one.
first then.
It came to mind immediately because it's Storm Thief by Chris Wooding.
That's pretty
And
famous.
yeah, I remember reading it in high school and really enjoying it, and it just kind of ends on a cliffhanger, basically. And then I read it again more recently, and I just, I just wish that he had a sequel, because I don't know, it's been like a decade, and there's still no sequel. And I think that it was he had originally planned on doing one, and he just never got to it for some
Mhm.
reason. And to be honest, at this point, I probably wouldn't enjoy a sequel that was written so much later,
Yeah.
just because those tend to not be as good, just because you're a little. The author, I think, gets a little too disconnected from how
Hmm.
they felt and who they were as a person when they wrote the first book, and so
Yep.
it's a little too different. But yeah, if he did release one, I would read it. But I don't know, I just really like that book, and I just feel like there were so many different directions that you could go with the
Hmm.
end of it that I really wish there was something else for me to have with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I when this is just a weird mindset for me because I read fan fiction and I write some fan fiction, and for me, like if I'm not happy with where a book ended, I'll just go write it or find someone else who was writing it.
Hmm.
Um, so it's not as big of a deal to me. I mean, yeah, it would be nice if the author would like write a sequel or whatever, but I don't have any specific examples. Although, I would like a prequel of The Man Who Spoke Snakish
Oh, that would be fun.
because I really liked that book and
Yeah.
I love more of the world. And the problem is like the whole thing is he's the last one who speaks it. So
Yeah.
it would be really fun to like do a prequel of that and be like this is what it was like before everything that happened in the current book.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I do remember writing fan fiction. for myself.
Mhm.
I I would just if and I think I did start one for Storm Thief when I first read it, but
Hmm.
I don't remember what direction I was going with it or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'd like to read some more, and if the author isn't gonna write more, then I guess I will for a little bit.
Mhm. But
I've
it's
never,
not the same.
yeah, it's not. And honestly, it's not that the author necessarily like even knows the characters way better. It's just that when you read what an author wrote, it's just different because it's like this is canon,
Yeah.
first of all.
Mhm.
And even if you don't like it, you can be like, well, that's what the author intended.
Mhm.
And, who am I, really?
Yeah. Like they
To be
created the
like,
world
no.
and the characters.
Yeah.
So.
And if I don't like it, I can go write my own thing or find somebody else that
Mhm.
I enjoy. But, oh, there aren't really that many more questions. I thought this had more. Well, some of them I don't care about. Like, what's your one true pairing? I've
Yeah.
never put characters together. I don't write that kind of fan fiction. I don't read that kind of fan fiction. I don't care.
Nope. I'm not
I
big on
never
romance.
have. And then which fictional character would you be best friends with?
Hmm. That is interesting. You know, I would have liked to be friends with Holly from the Artemis Fowl series.
Yeah, I never read it.
You never read those?
No, you told me
Oh,
to, and I still have not.
wow.
I
And
read the
you
graphic novel.
did you like that?
No,
I've never read that, so I wouldn't know.
just the first
Well,
book.
no, I really liked Holly in the series. That would be fun. Or who else? I don't know. You?
I genuinely just don't think about characters in that way.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't think about characters being my friends. And I don't
Oh.
know if it's because I grew up with an extremely strong wall between fiction and reality.
Mhm.
So like even to me like subconsciously it does not occur to me that I could be friends with characters, and I know like and obviously like that they're fictional characters. I'm not saying that like people get so into the escapism that they forget or anything like that. That's not what
Yeah.
I'm implying. It's
Yeah.
just I personally have always have I just don't think about them that way. Like they're like, "Oh, I'd like to be friends with this fictional character." And I'm like, that doesn't even occur to me.
Mm.
It has never occurred to me to be friends with a fictional character, even if I really do like them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't have that many friends in real life, I guess, either. I'm extremely like selective about friends.
You have a good
And
number of
like
friends, I feel like.
I probably have more now than I did most of growing up. I always like knew a lot of people, but I wouldn't have necessarily considered them all like my friends. My
Yeah.
inner circle has always been really small.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think maybe that also has something to do with it because even for fictional characters, like, well, I wouldn't want to be friends with them because of like this or because they act like this
Mhm.
sometimes and I don't like that.
I
And I
mean,
guess it's easier to be picky about that with a fictional character than a real person because we all have our flaws. Like
yeah.
you annoy me sometimes,
Yeah. It's not like
and
we annoy each other.
yeah, and it's not like I'm like, oh, I can't be friends with Charlotte anymore because she doesn't close chip bags.
Yeah, exactly. Such a glaring personal flaw.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe
yeah,
I just overthink the question too. Like,
well,
who would you
yeah,
be best friends with? And it's like, I don't want to.
yeah, I mean, there are just like there's like characters that you like love but would never want to meet in real life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it's hard it's a lot harder to be like which character would I actually like jive with in real life. I mean, that's why I don't, for instance, we're talking about fan fiction, to go back to that, I don't really read second person fan fiction because I don't really like
Oh,
it, like reader inserts, because I just I don't know, that's not what I'm doing when I read, I guess. Like
yeah.
I don't put myself in the world, I am like observing it more, I guess.
Yes, and maybe that's also my thing too, because that does tend to be what I do as well. I don't ever really imagine myself as a character in the story.
Yeah.
Like I relate to characters, and like
Hmm.
if there's a blank slate character, it's a little easier to
Yeah.
like kind of self-insert a bit, but I'm always I'm always an observer. I'm always an outsider. I'm always watching it like I watch a movie,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
watching the characters do things. And I
Mhm.
don't really have any desire to do more than that,
Yeah.
which is why I don't necessarily get into I am not necessarily an escapist reader all the time.
Yeah. It's just a different way of interacting with it. Like I don't think I don't have anything against people who enjoy that, who enjoy
Oh yeah.
like they're in the world, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I've also
love that. I sometimes wish that I could do that more often because
mhm.
I definitely have like moments in books when I'm like, "Oh, I really really feel like I'm there." But then
Mhm.
as soon as I have that realization, it's almost like it takes me out of it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's like that's fine. Like I still very much enjoy reading and I still very much enjoy, a well put together novel, but I do sometimes envy people who can very much feel like they're there and
Mm.
can very much become immersed in the world in a way that like I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I did think of one more person, Hermione. I feel like we could be friends. I mean, I know she's a bit of a know-it-all at the start of the series, but like
Yeah.
I think we'd have a lot in common as far as like our love of reading and learning and
Yeah. I could see you guys being friends.
so there you go. That's a good answer.
It is. It is. All right, let's end with this question, which is just a really an easy one, I guess. Well, it might be less easy for you because you don't tend to keep track of these things. What was your last 5-star read?
My last 5-star read.
Yeah, I'm about to pull mine up on my computer because I keep track.
Are
But
we
I
allowed to
know
cheat then?
well,
I
yeah, you can go back and look.
I do also keep track,
Oh, do you?
I only
I
keep
didn't know
ratings.
you kept track. You
Yeah.
only keep what?
I only keep ratings. I don't like review books.
Oh, okay. See, I write a book review for every book that I read. They're usually fairly short, but whatever. I do a star rating, and that's all on my Goodreads, which pretty sure I link in the description of all of our videos. Oh, my last 5-star read is almost a cheat
Why?
because it's the Magic Treehouse books.
Oh.
Yeah, which I read 8 of them. So I mean, but I just rated them all 5 stars because they're so nostalgic, and I enjoyed them all over again too. What was my last 5-star read before that? Oh, I never. Wow, I gave this book 5 stars and I didn't write a review on it forever ago, like back in January. My last 5-star read besides The Magic Treehouse was Another Gospel by Elisa Childers. About it's a nonfiction. It's about progressive Christianity.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Otherwise, that's
that's it. When did you read that one you said?
like I think January. That might have. No, yeah, it had to have been January because it's at like the very bottom of my book reviews 2022 Word document. You want to know my last 1-star read?
Yes.
I just finished it. It was Serafina by Rachel Hartman.
What was wrong with it?
Everything. It was really boring. I listened to it on audio, and the only reason that I finished it was because I kept forgetting to take the discs out of my car. And so I just kept listening to them until I was on disc like 5. And I was like, well, I guess I'm halfway through. I might as well finish it. I didn't even add it to my Goodreads until I was on like disc 6 or 7 because I didn't intend to finish it. It was just really boring. It's a book about dragons and people and dragons that can shift into human form. And it was
Oh,
just really
and that was
boring.
boring?
It was really stuffy and uninteresting. And it was told from a more distant perspective. Like the style of writing was distant. And I
Hmm.
realized, I think about 2/3 of the way through, why I couldn't really get into the world like almost at all. And it was because all of the descriptions of things happening were very glazed over in a way that if you just read it, you wouldn't necessarily pick up on it right away.
Mm-hmm.
But there's multiple times in the book where like there's a mob, like an angry mob going after somebody. And it's just described like and then the mob pushed forward and started beating him.
Oh.
And it's like
But that
like
doesn't
there's
make
a
you
little
feel
bit more than that, but I never really felt like I was there with her. Like there are times when she's running for her life and it's just not It's just not
You just don't
there.
feel it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So that was my biggest complaint with it.
well, is it weird that both my most recent highest and lowest ratings? I don't really give things 1 stars. I have almost no 1 star ratings, so that's been a long time.
You're so nice.
But they're both graphic novels.
Oh, that's fair then. You read a
So
lot of graphic novels. Makes
I
sense.
do. I really like them. And like I said, lately, especially, my guilty pleasure has just been going to the library and getting out graphic novels. And
Yeah.
because I can read those in like some of them under an hour, depending on. I try to slow down consciously to like look at the illustrations because sometimes I almost feel bad because I get so into the plot that I just want to keep going and then I'm not like
Yeah.
really appreciating the art.
Yeah.
But it's one that I actually bought just because it was $10. Monstrous. You said you've read.
Oh, I did read the first one. I liked it. I keep wanting to get the rest of them, but they do this thing. I don't know if it's a publisher thing or what, but the first one is like only $10, and then every single one after that is like 25.
Yep. So I haven't read the others yet, but yeah, I just feel like it did some really good world building in
Mhm.
a really natural way, and it was just like gorgeously illustrated and
Yes. I 100% agree. I think I read the first 3. I might
yeah.
have done like 2.5 because, well, like I was working in the bookstore when it was first coming out.
Ah, okay.
So I read the first one and then I had to wait. And I know I read the second one, but I can't remember for sure if I like started flipping through the third one or if I actually read it or what. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
should see
agree.
the
It's very
library
good.
has those. Yeah. And then the one that I didn't like. Well, okay, should I do the graphic novel one or should I do the book that I read most recently? Because I probably liked the book less. I rated them the same, but
Do the most recent one.
okay. Well, the most recent one was Minus, which was the graphic novel, and it's about. So I didn't love the art style. I didn't hate it because honestly, if I don't like the art style of a graphic novel, I won't even pick it up
Yeah.
because like if I think it's ugly, like why would I spend the
Yeah.
time looking at something I think is ugly?
Yes, I agree. Same.
So it's like it's not bad, but it was a very plain style. And then it was supposed to be like this girl going to college for the first time, but then it turns out that she was like kidnapped as a child and he's not really her dad, but she knows that and she just like kind of stays with him anyway, and then her real dad is like a sociopath who like finds them and is trying to kill her like the kidnapper, but I
A
don't know.
nicer person than her
Yes.
real dad.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, this is just really weird. And it was also like really confusing the way everything came together. Like she just coincidentally gets picked up by this cop who like then helps like put all the pieces together kind of thing. I don't know. I was just like, I'm not I'm not into this. I don't really understand what I'm supposed to take away from this.
Yeah.
Is this telling children like
Oh.
if you were kidnapped as a child, it might be okay because maybe your kidnapper's better than your real parent? I don't know.
Huh.
Was just a weird time. And also the premise, this is the back of the book, which doesn't sound like it at all. Beck is ready and excited for college, but her road trip with Dad for move-in day goes off the rails when she hears gunfire from a gas station restroom. She emerges from hiding. Her father and their car are gone, and she's the only person left alive. Now,
What?
does that sound like the setup for what I just described?
No.
No. So she
Absolutely not.
basically hitchhikes and she gets picked up by the cop character, and then it just like all weirdly happens to be. I don't even remember how the gas station shooting ties in. It's just like I no, don't recommend.
Well, good. I'm glad that you also have a couple of 1 stars. Or is that still a 2?
I still gave it 2.
Oh my gosh.
The animation. Oh, I don't know what I
Pathetic.
would give a 1 star to. Ethan Frome would get a 1 star.
I give 1 stars to books that I actually hate. Serafina was almost a 2 star. Because I gave it a 2 star initially, and then as I was writing my review, I was like, no. I think
You
it's
thought about
1.
it, you're like, nah.
Yeah. Which happens sometimes when I'll like give a star rating initially, and then I'll like start writing the review, and I'll be like, you know,
Okay.
maybe
You know what
not.
else I gave 1 star to? I just looked. There's 2 of them, and Ethan
But,
Frome is one, and the other one is
uh,
the other one is Livscraft.
Oh my gosh. I forget that that book exists sometimes. I swear I don't even know if I still have it. No, I must have kept it because I got a signed copy. That book was awful.
Mhm. Yeah.
Terrible. The worst. I never wrote a review for it. I wasn't writing reviews at the time. So we
Yeah.
read that.
This is
I
pre.
only started writing reviews for every single book this year.
That's really funny. Okay, I'm glad I looked that up because that that's just really funny.
That's great. Did I tell you I looked that up at some point and I'm pretty sure she has
No.
another book in the series. I can't
Wow.
remember now. I'm looking on Amazon right now. Anyway, this doesn't really have anything to do with the question.
No. It's just funny
It's a
because
self-published
my
book,
friend
and
saw
the
it.
reason that we found it was yeah, because I watched. She's a YouTuber, the one who wrote this book, and I watched her at the time, and so I was like, oh, I'll get it. Oh, it's available on audio. I can't imagine.
It was not good.
Uh,
It didn't
on
feel like it should have
Kindle.
been published. It felt like it needed to be edited still.
Yeah. Oh, there is one called Jorda. She also has another series that she co-wrote with somebody else, but I have no faith in that.
You don't think another person would help?
No, I don't think so. Oh, yeah. It looks just as bad.
Great. Well,
All right, anyway. So that was our little mini podcast. Let us know in the comments if you enjoyed it. Nobody listens to these, so
you know,
whatever.
but if you find
One
this,
day. Yeah,
maybe
if you
here we
find this,
met.
yeah. Honestly, let us know. I would love to know what people actually think about this podcast because we just keep doing it.
We do. We just keep doing it, and I don't know. I thought these questions were fun, so
Yeah, I agree. I'll have to make like a list or something and keep track so we can do some of these because I do enjoy just having like a talk about books, but not necessarily about one book.
mhm.
And then
Yeah,
this
we
makes it so we
normally
don't have to give spoiler warnings either.
yes, yeah, we normally have a couple tangents where we mention other books, but
Or we talk about kind of similar topics as to these, but we don't like sit down and actually answer them.
yeah, yeah.
All right, well, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, all that jazz. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.